Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome. We have a theme for today, and our theme is what's been holding you back in your studies. And we got some great responses from people. Megan and I are going to deal with some of those and look forward to that discussion. Welcome to all of you. We're glad you're here. If this is your first time with us on the Q&A webinar, we are glad that you're here. We do this every week. We come together to update you on what's going on around the world in the bar and then to answer your questions. And we are just thrilled to be able to do this. And of course, we're now in that under 30-day window to the bar exam. So there's a lot of things to talk about today. All right. With that, let me see if Megan's available. We'll get her to jump in.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. End of June, huh?
Yes, I know. It's exciting. I know maybe a little nerve-wracking for some of you, but also you guys have been working so hard. I'm really impressed with everyone I've been talking to. They're moving right along and excited to get this exam done with, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So here we are. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Where do you want to start us off? I know there's been a lot of discussion about the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and this is the final week of decisions and next week. None of that is testable. The things that are coming out right now, your bar exam was written months and months and months ago. It does not impact that at all. You do not need to be reading advance sheets or summaries of cases. If something were to happen and it changed an existing rule, the examiners would have to credit you both ways. So don't worry. This is not something we want you to spend your time on. You and I think, are going to do a video after the July exams, and we will update people on where we think Supreme Court jurisprudence is with respect to the bar exam. But for now, absolutely nothing you got to worry about.
Yes, definitely. Good point. I'm glad you said that. No need to panic as things are shifting around with the Supreme Court.
I just want to take this moment and draw your attention to something. If you look in the offers tab, we put up a link to what is a dashboard page where we put up 4 different products: PhotoReading, BarMaps, Multistate nutshell videos, and the MPRE course. This is the start of a new course hosting site. And it's really an easy place to go, that one spot, and you can just click on any of those or all of those courses, and you'll be linked in to place your order and put into the site, and it's really cool, and I'm excited about it. In any event, the Multistate nutshell videos are one of those products, and that is something you have to add to your course. It's not built into your course, but it corresponds to the written nutshells. So there you go.
Great. Do BarMaps include MBE and state subjects?
Yeah, we have a BarMaps product for the Multistate, and then we have BarMaps for Florida, for California, for UBE, for Georgia. You can buy just your state BarMaps if you want, or you can buy just MBE, or you can put them together and save a lot of money. You can even buy an individual subject BarMap. We have some people that want to do that just to try it out. But again, so a lot of different ways to configure that. And we're right at that time, don't you think, Megan, when BarMaps are really valuable to people because they're starting to focus their study?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should be mind mapping. I was talking to a student earlier today who said, I haven't really been doing that. I don't know how helpful it is. You should be doing it. Absolutely, everyone. I 100% recommend it. So
Yeah.
This next question is about doing these MBEs. I've noticed that I'm doing problems on the MBE that if I don't know the answer and I sit there and just select the answer that feels best to me, that more often than not, that's the correct answer. Am I crazy or what?
No, you're using selective intuition. I love that question. I was like, no, dude, you're not crazy. That's how it works. That's what we made our reputation on. The idea here is that you don't try to parse out the question. You don't try to figure it out and wrestle with it. You just respond to it. The responsiveness is drawing from your non-conscious brain. If you're a photo reader, this is going to be very powerful. But even if you're not a photo reader, you still have the same capacity. You just have to work a little harder, I think, to get used to trusting your gut and working on it. What I would suggest to all of you is to watch the video in your course called Selective Intuition. It's not real long, but it works through this process of how you answer questions. And in fact, we take some multi-state questions and we actually do the selective intuition method. We break it down and work through a specific question and show you how this works in the old way versus the new way with selective intuition. Really amazed at what happens. Now, as we get closer to the exam, what tends to happen is people start to get nervous and anxious, and then they start trying to drill down and kill the questions and figure them all out, and their scores go down. Whereas if you just relax and respond intuitively, just what do I think the right answer? What feels right to me, right? What this student said, you're going to see you're getting a lot of questions, a ton. And this is why people get these huge jumps in their scores when they take our course. It's not because they got smarter. They've always been smart. They just didn't use the smart. They locked it off in a lockbox. And now you're opening that up and using it. So good job. I'm glad you discovered that. That's always an aha moment that we like to see.
Yeah. All right. So for the rest of our time, we're going to talk about the theme, I think you called it for today, this question of what is it that's holding me back on the exam? So what is it that I feel like is tugging me in the wrong direction or stopping me from moving forward in the way that I want to? And I know, Jackson, you wanted to talk about this interesting phenomenon that we're seeing this year, really for the first time for the July bar, which is this sense of responsibility to go far away to be with family for the 4th of July holiday.
Yeah, this is weird. Look, and it's clearly because of COVID, no doubt. You and I have done this together for 10 years, and we're used to people going home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and for New Year's. It's built into the structure. We plan for it. We know it. And it gives us a nice, sweet 7 weeks from New Year's right into the February exam. No problem. Starting really, didn't you notice it about Memorial Day? We started to hear from students who were saying, my family wants me to come home for Memorial Day. What? And then this week, like it's a thing, my family wants me to come home for the 4th of July. Nobody goes home for the 4th of July. You have a barbecue, you watch fireworks, you do some oohs and some ahs. I don't know, whatever. You watch whatever race car sport you like, something. But you don't go home for the 4th of July. I've rarely asked my children to come home for the 4th of July. And so it's this weird thing that's happened. And what I sensed, and I think you got a little bit of it too, was enormous guilt on the part of our students. And here's why it doesn't work. Now, it's not 7 weeks to the exam, it's 28 days to the exam. So under the theme of Jackson's being the bad guy today, don't travel home for the 4th of July. You don't have time. And giving up 4 or 5 days right now for travel is going to be very problematic. I'm just going to say it. You will not be able to get good studying done, and you won't be very present with your family. And so everybody loses, right? They're unhappy because you weren't totally engaged in the moment, and you're unhappy because you're not totally engaged in your bar study. And truthfully, 4 weeks out from the bar exam, you should be totally engaged in your bar study. And so I've had this conversation, I don't know how many times this week, where I've said to students, okay, make me the bad guy, throw me under the bus. Your bar coach said he doesn't want you going home for the 4th of July. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's a thing, right?
Yeah, I think we've just all been, we've all been so pent up with COVID. So I understand it. But you know what? Like the general wave of this in the summertime one is that people who are taking the July exam take a vacation after the exam. Yeah. I think that's what I would suggest is if it's possible for you to tell your family what the bar is, it's this month, I'm almost done, and then I will book my plane ticket or I will jump in the car and I will come and see you for a real stay where I can be fully present, I can be relaxed and enjoy my time and not be half my head is in MBE land and half my head is here with you. So yeah, if at all possible, it's not, I know that people feel like, wasn't it the same as the holidays before the February exam? But the difference between being 2 months out from the February exam and being a couple weeks out from the July exam is just a world of difference. And yeah, what Jackson, I know you always say, and I remember this when I was studying and taking the bar, the July bar, was that if you're studying, take off some time on the 4th of July. Of course, that's great. Spend some time, go to a barbecue, go watch some fireworks. But and be fully present there while you're doing that. Leave your books at home, go hang out and enjoy the day. But that is a very different proposition than spending a 3-4 day vacation where you aren't going to be able to study for that long of a time. Very different than saying, I'm going to study the morning of the 4th, and then I'm going to go out and have a really nice time with my friends or my family who's close by and enjoy the 4th of July in the dinner time. That kind of a situation. So yeah, I know it's hard.
I can see people jumping off right now going, oh man, I better text my parents. But really, but Megan's right. You can see them in August. It's not that far away. And I know everybody's really anxious after such a long period of time. It's completely unprecedented. And so we get that. Everybody gets it, but the bar examiners don't care. Right. And they're not going to give you any accommodation because you went home for the 4th. Tell your family I'll be home for August.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, those first time takers, those 3Ls, they're not traveling on the 4th. They're taking their trips after they take the bar exam. So in July, you are up against all the people who just graduated, and they are laser focused on this test. And I really want you guys to be too, if you can.
Yeah.
So related to this, we got several people who said what was holding them back was some variation of family members, sometimes a significant other who was being a little needy, maybe, right? Saying, you have this responsibility to me. I need you're studying too much. You're too focused on this. You need to, do more for our relationship or our time right now together. So
yeah, I had a call right before the webinar today with a student. We were supposed to talk about essays, and I could tell in the first 3 seconds that the student had been crying and was still pretty upset. And I asked what happened. And the student said, I got into a fight with my son, who is feeling very underappreciated and neglected right now. And I'm feeling terrible, and I'm feeling conflicted, and I'm feeling torn. And what do I do? And I said, first of all, we're not going to talk about your essays, okay? Because you're not in a mindset for that. But what I suggested was that this student spend the rest of the day today with their son, doing whatever they wanted to do together, just one-on-one. I'm paying attention to you. I care about you. I'm interested in your world. And I said, because I think the son was middle school or older, so could do it. I said, I suspect the son at some point will say, hey, Mom, you need to get back to your bar study. I said, but the time that you spend with that child, just focused on them, not talking about the bar, not thinking about the bar exam, but just focused on them, is going to pay you enormous dividends in the relationship. It's going to set a model that the priority here is family, not the bar exam. Bar exam will always be here. And you're modeling that no test comes in the way of family and what goes on in the household. And you don't want your kids to think that tests are bad, disruptive, nasty, ugly, horrible things. Wouldn't that be a terrible legacy to leave to them, right? That every time they have a test, then they think it's going to amount to this chaos and emotional disruption and so on. And so I think that sometimes, we've just said, don't travel for 4 days over the holiday. If you have to take an afternoon or a day and be with your family, please do that, please, because there is enough time to study for the bar. This does not require 24/7 attention for the next 30 days. It just doesn't. Most of you have been studying for weeks, if not months, leading up to this. You already, and here's the big secret, you already have enough information, regardless of where you are in the syllabus. You have enough information to pass the bar exam. The only thing you don't have is that you don't believe that you have it, okay? But you really do. Your non-conscious brain has got it all, 100%. And you just have to learn how to extract it. So that doesn't require 24/7 cramming and memorization and all the things that you think go in. And so if a family member, whether it's a child or a spouse or a parent, is acting out, then instead of resisting that, instead of making that even more tense and disruptive, just bring it down. Bring down the temperature. Get with them, spend some time with them, acknowledge what they're feeling as well. And then they're going to embrace, and in fact, they're going to push you back into your studies. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. They just need to be heard. Don't you think that's what it comes down to?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's a really hard balance. It's a really hard balance, but ultimately and what I want to say, because we had some different sorts of versions of this question. And in some, I would say, your children love you. They love you, and they just want to connect with you. And you're not going to mess them up forever because you studied for an exam. It's okay. I promise. Even though it might feel that way sometimes. But also definitely you may need to take stock of some other people in your life who are, if you feel that they are being unreasonable in their demands of you, or so we had some unfortunate ones that were the person using it as a cudgel almost of, I'm going to break up with you if you keep studying so much. We're not going to tell you what to do. Obviously, I have no idea what to do, but I just know that you want to see and evaluate for yourself. Is this person being reasonable? And can I meet that reasonableness of just, I love you and I want time with you? Or is someone not respecting your boundaries? So it's a hard line to walk, but definitely it is such a short amount of time left. There's such a short amount of time left. I love that advice, Jackson, to make sure that you are remaining who you are as a person and not just, you're not a robot, and you can't be a robot for the next 28 days. So don't
want to be. Yeah. And I think the other thing I think we have to say about this is that sometimes, not always, sometimes bar takers tend to use these as excuses, and as they take a relatively inoffensive remark from somebody and they weaponize it. And okay, you said that must mean you're going to leave me, and therefore I can't pass the bar because you're doing this to me. There's this sense of victimization that comes up that is inevitable, particularly for repeat bar takers. And so it's very important that you get your mindset proper. Now, I want to suggest to you again, we have something called the Abundance for Bar Study Masterclass. It is a gold mine, I think, of resources and strategies that you can use if you find yourself drifting into this kind of approach and thinking. And June probably could put that up in the offers tab for you to look at. But I think that the 90 minutes you spend going through that might help bring your temperature down. And if you think rationally, maybe I'm overreacting to what I'm hearing from family or friends or where else, this is a pretty good warning sign that you are overreacting or reacting in a way that isn't going to benefit you or the people around you. And ultimately, this is part of being a lawyer, right? It's keeping your cool, it's keeping your focus, doing what you can do on behalf of your client and the work. And right now the work is the bar. So I know it's hard, but try really hard to not view yourself in a victim role. I think that's the biggest thing that concerns me, is that we tend to feel very defensive, and then we get angry, and then we feel victimized, and that none of that helps when it comes to taking the ball.
All right. The next big thing that we heard from a lot of people of what's holding them back is issues of enough time and time management and discipline with that. Down to the wire, a lot of people are working full-time jobs. They have children, they have other responsibilities, and have older family members they care for. So what do we do with this time and time management problem?
I want to go to one of the interesting findings in that 6 keys to pass the pass list series that we just completed from the New York bar examiners is that they discovered that there was not a correlation between finishing an outline, a syllabus, and passing the bar. Okay, getting through everything was not necessary. That actually didn't correlate to being successful. Now, that isn't to say you shouldn't try to finish the syllabus. Clearly, we want you to do that. But sometimes we make that into an object of desire. We we lionize it as being so important that we then get frantic, right? Everything else out of the way. I've just got to check off boxes. I've got to spend more hours. I've got to do this. It is not necessary to do that. You do not need to know everything. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole. I had a student who said, when I read answer explanations, they cite a case and I have to go read the case. And I said, no, you don't. You absolutely don't need to do that. You never needed to do that. People become their own worst enemies from time management standpoint because they try to overdo, they try to do too much. Again, out of scarcity, out of the sense of fear of missing out, that I'm missing, something's lacking. We tend to get these very hyper detailed questions at this point about the materials. And frankly, we stop answering them at about this point because they're just not productive. It doesn't change anything for you, and it becomes a distractor. And then you waste time on them, and you're like, what about, what about this sentence here, or this particular statute, or it just doesn't matter. And so I know that's not the answer people want to hear when it comes to time management, but it is one of the keys. Now, we did this 6 keys video, and one of them is called time management, okay? The quality of study time, I think it's video key number 2. The video takes 20 minutes. It's worth watching the 20-minute video to talk about how you manage your time and the importance of it and what you do with that. The simple answer is follow the study guide, but follow the time frames as well. And often people say, what can I cut out? You don't cut out anything. You just move faster through the material, and you may not have as much time for review. For those of you in the July exam grouping, you get daily emails from me now. You should be getting them. If you're not, reach out to June, because we've been sending them now every day for a week. And in those, I'm going to talk about what you do today and what's going on today and how to manage your time today. Those are good benchmarks for you, and they're good guidelines. But I'm never going to say to you, put in 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. There's no reason for that. We don't want you to do that. I'll say it again. You already know enough to pass the bar. Everything you do now, and go back to my days in New Orleans, everything from here is lagniappe. It's extra. It's just extra stuff. You already know it. You just don't know. So that's my take. What I know you've got probably a more practical, less philosophical approach to time management.
Oh, no. I think that's great. I think that's really what the philosophical is probably what people need to hear now. Because the truth is that I think if you are less than 30 days out, you are not going to remake your personality in the next 30 days. If you're a person who struggles with time management or whose life circumstances are very busy, that is not going to suddenly change in the next 30 days. And so I think the philosophical view of it is probably the more helpful one at this point. If you're a February student, talk to me in August and we'll chat, because you got plenty of time to make some changes.
And the reason I say that about you, Megan, is that for some of you don't necessarily need to know all this, but Megan balances a very active family with her work, with her coaching and social activism and reading, and the list goes on and on. Now, admittedly, Megan, you are an amazing human being and a superstar. But the point is, Megan deals with these things on a daily basis, and dealing with 2 elementary school kids who are super active and want to do a bunch of stuff every day and doing everything else she's doing. So some of you who go, well, you don't understand. And I understand. I'm an old guy. I don't have anything else to do except for bar review. But Megan is the exact opposite. She's got a million things to do and she gets it all done. And so she is really a wizard at compartmentalizing, figuring out how the most efficient way to get something done, and then doing it without much drama. And so if you're looking for somebody who will give you a no-nonsense view of that, you really should talk to Megan.
Thanks. I know we have a lot of students who are balancing so many things. So it's hard. It is really difficult. And you should watch the 6 keys video, because you talk about that. I don't remember which video number it is, but one of them talks about that. Yeah. All right. So the next thing is I've got a few here that are about fear. So I want to tell you the different fears. My anxiety getting the better of me. I'm so afraid of failing again that I procrastinate. Someone else, I'm afraid of not finishing all the questions. Someone else, I'm terrified of the idea of being faced with a question during the exam where I don't know how to respond. So just basically, there's answers to those specific things, but I think more broadly too, the fear that people feel going into the exam right now.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to go philosophical here. I think that in large part, fear is something we generate for ourselves out of anxiety and unknown and not a deep trust in our own ability. Now, there's some great paraliminals we've got available that talk about fear and confidence and positive thinking and power thinking and so on. And I would encourage you to use all of those tools. They're great. But I also think ultimately what happens is that we tend to let our fears, we're talking about your kids, but I imagine that they had their nightmares, right, where the monster's living in the closet. We have nightmares where we have monsters living in our emotional closets, and the bar exam tweaks every one of them, doesn't it? It's a test of you. It seems to be a judgment on you as a person. It certainly affects your career, your livelihood. It does all of those things. It is a brutal world, and I make no bones about that. It is sadistic. There's no getting around that. But having said that, you have a choice to make about whether or not you want to give into that fear or you want to ignore it. One of the practical tools that you can use is to make a list of the things that are benefits to you of passing the bar, and then make a list of the things that are fears or obstacles, and then really evaluating them and asking yourself which ones of these really matter to you. And if the fear is stopping you, as you said, Megan, in some of those questions, it's because the fear side of that list is a heavier list. Doesn't mean it has more items, but it has more emotional content to it than the upside. And so you have to start looking and asking yourself, what's the benefit of passing the bar? And it may not be the obvious things. It might be the way you model for your kids. It might be protecting your economic security and future for your family. It may be just completing something that you started 20, 30, 40 years ago. But those things are valuable. And when you start focusing on those, instead of focusing on the fears, that is what drives you across no man's land. It's what drives you to take the risk to jump out. Why did you enroll in this course? Why did you agree to sit for the bar? It's because at that moment that you did that, you had hope and ambition that outweighed your fear. Now, as you get deeper into it, the fear starts to raise its ugly head and you start going, oh my God, I can't do this. And I got to tell you, you can do it. The part of you that was hopeful and encouraged is what got you into this course. No one came to this course because they were afraid. Because the fearful people sign up and then quit the next day because they go, oh my God, I can't do this. So you've already gotten past all of that. Now you have to build the snowball of hope and ambition and goals and optimism instead of building the snowball of fear. So that's where I come in.
Yeah, that's great. I think, so I love that. And that's the philosophical piece of it. I'll be real practical with a couple of these, which is to say the fear of not finishing questions within the assigned time. If you're talking about the MBEs, if you do the selective intuition and you spend 90 seconds, you have way more time than you need. Way more time. You just have to do it. And that's I think someone else had said that what was holding them back was worrying about not being able to do the selective intuition. I don't think you have to worry about it. You just do it. Like, that's the point. Don't overthink it. So yeah, the only way you're not going to is if you make the choice of, I'm not going to, I'm going to force it. And if you're worrying about it with the essays and not having enough time, it's one of those practice. You need to be timing yourself. I've had several students who I just started working with who said less than 30 days out from the exam, they're not writing timed essays. You 100% need to be writing timed essays because you need to get that muscle memory for what it feels like, whether it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. You need to feel, what does that feel like, how quickly it goes by, and get a good sense of what you can write in it. And then keep in mind that adrenaline helps a lot on the day of too with that, honestly. People type a lot more words than they think that they ever did in practice. So that's helpful. And then with the person saying, terrified of the idea of being faced with questions during the exam where they don't know how to respond, I think really this is one of those things that it is that fear, like you said, Jackson, of trying to control. So it feels like if I know every possible thing they could ask me, then there's no curveball. And I empathize with that. That is how I deal with anxiety. That is how I live my life, which is not always very productive, to feel like if I just have everything prepped, right, for every possible eventuality, then I don't have to be afraid of anything happening. But that's just not realistic. It's not realistic in life or on the bar. So release yourself from that desire and that expectation, because no one going into the exam is prepared for every single question. There's just nobody has memorized, even people who are memorizing, they have not memorized the entire body of law that is testable on the exam. So you don't have to either, because you're being judged against all those other people and they're not perfect. So you don't have to hold yourself to that standard.
Right. And remember, we built the writing system on the idea that you didn't have to know the law. You can answer an essay question without knowing the law. Now, I don't recommend that you do that on all the essays, but every exam, I've got people that get scores back and they go, how did I get this score? I didn't know the law at all. The writing style of FLA will get you there. And on the multi-state, you're just doing an intuitive guess, and it's okay to not know the answer. There are going to be some questions you just won't know the answer to, and that's fine. The smart person is the one that answers it quickly and moves on and doesn't waste their time and gets to the easy questions that count. I think Megan's right that that sense of wanting to control everything is probably what undergirds that. But again, you don't have to give in to it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The next one is, someone said what's holding them back is preferring to read from books, but the exam for them in their jurisdiction is totally online.
Yeah, but the exam may be online, but you certainly could read from a book. You can take the PDF and print it out or read from the book. The online part is just, don't overblow it. And again, don't make it bigger than it is. The question is going to be on your screen. It's just like reading a web page. It's no big deal. And if you don't turn it into a big deal, you'll be fine. But if you blow it up into the monster in the closet, then yeah, it's going to be a scary, miserable thing. But in reality, it's really not very much at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Next is someone said their mindset of questioning as a foreign certified and experienced attorney. Why do I have to do this when I've been an attorney for so many years before? Which
it's not just foreign attorneys, right? It's anybody who's licensed feels that way. And I think, frankly, a lot of people that went to law school feel that way. Why do I have to do it? You have to do it because that's the unfair world that we live in. End of story. Right? So again, it's mindset, right? You can be angry about that, justifiably. You can be distrustful, justifiably. You can be frustrated, justifiably. It gets you nothing, absolutely nothing. You want to change the system, become a member of the bar. Once you have become a member of the bar, then you can have a seat at the table and you can make the changes that have to be made, or at least advocate for them. But you get nothing if you're not at the table. So the first step is, as my wife often says to me, get over yourself. Really? Okay, great. Very exciting. Sorry to hear that, but you're okay. Just let it go. And again, the Abundance for Bar Study MasterClass, I think, is a remarkable resource. Having created it, but the feedback I get from people is that it really helps them deal with those kinds of challenges that they're facing. That sense of being underappreciated and attacked and victimized. It just won't help you on the exam. So you've got to get past it.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll have some more that we'll bump to next week, I think, because these are really interesting and fascinating. Yeah. Continue to send them in if anybody has any things that they want to share. Because, man, there are so many repeat things. You are not alone. Like, I think hopefully from last week and this week, people are seeing that the way they're feeling is not unique at all.
Let me just say that before you do that, I hope that this is helpful for you all. This is something a little different than what we were doing. For the last 18 months, we were in crisis mode over COVID. And so I'm really hopeful that taking this approach to trying to answer these kinds of questions is something that is meaningful for you, whether you're watching live or you're on the replay. So let us know, please. If it's not helpful, tell us that. We don't want to waste your time. And Megan told me before we started today, let's not waste anybody's time here today. Let's keep moving. So, all right.
No,
sorry.
Okay. All right. So let's finish with this one. Someone said, what's holding me back from success in the bar exam is I've allowed the bar to be a monolithic determiner of my worth rather than see it as a simple exam. Okay, not simple. It has become a Mount Everest that dictates my worth, to which my logical and stronger self says BS. But this is a common theme for sure.
It really is. It really is. It becomes inextricably tied to our self-identity. Look, if you're taking the bar exam, you're a success in virtually every context of the word. It means you went to law school, not a small thing, and you graduated from law school, not a small thing. And there are so many people. I get calls every week from people, I think some of them in jail, saying, how do I sit for the bar exam? It's the Kim Kardashian approach now that's spilled over, that everybody thinks they can sit for the bar exam. And of course, we have to say to them, no, you have to do this and this. And even Kim Kardashian is not finding that it's quite as easy as she thought. And so what happens is that we tie our self-worth into this test without recognizing that you're already a success. You're already a winner. You're already an amazing person. And you are, by the human potential movement, a genius. Your non-conscious brain has all of the information right there. The answer to every question, just like Google has the answer to every query, and Amazon apparently has the product for every need. But you don't know it until you ask, until you type it into the search bar, and until you ask yourself the question on the bar exam, what do I do with this? You never know. And so this monolithic thing that sits out there that becomes bigger than life, that becomes some sort of a referendum on your humanity and whether you're worthwhile or not, is something that you're doing to yourself. Now, the bar examiners take credit for that. Yeah, in their weird way, they probably do, but you don't give them that power. Your value is already established. Your worth is already established. This test is merely a confirmation of your worth on those 2 days. And so I treat the bar exam and I tell my students to go in and use it as an opportunity to show off. Show the bar examiners how incredibly wonderful and talented you are. That's it. And then it's up to them to evaluate it. Your job is just to go in and do the best you can do. I talk about a book called The 4 Agreements that's so incredible. And one of the 4 agreements is just do your best. And some days your best is really good. Some days your best is but you just do your best. And then you come back the next day and you do your best again. And you just keep doing that. And if you'll do that, I think that then you own the result, you own the product that you create, and let the examiners own the result. That's up to them. You don't need to be worried about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's why it's really important that you continue, as we talked about, continue to spend some time with people who love you and who you love during this last month. Be focused on studying for the bar, but it is not a 24-hour-a-day process. So you need to take time. Be with your family, be with loved ones, with friends. Make sure that you are keeping in the front of your mind that those roles that you play are so much more important than bar exam taker. That's such a tiny part of your identity, if it's a part of your identity at all. Yes. Enjoy 4th of July weekend for those of you who are in the US and are celebrating. I hope that you guys do spend some time, eat a burger or a veggie burger, and enjoy some fireworks, and just, or even if for you it looks like lay at the pool or outside, go to the beach, whatever you want to do to center yourself, enjoy your time, but also don't abandon your studies. Don't use it as an excuse to say, oh, I can take 3 days off to celebrate. So yeah, keep at the hard work that I know all of you have been doing.
Absolutely. And we'll be back post 4th of July, and we will pick up with more of these questions. And so make sure you send us your comments. So everybody have a great weekend. Thank you, Megan, for being here. And we will see you all again on the other side of the 4th. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.